Welcome, everyone. We're excited to welcome you all to the 2026 Prebys Leadership Awards informational webinar. My name is Noveen Yarber. I'm Senior Learning Officer at the Prebys Foundation, and I'm joined today with an amazing group of colleagues, both from the foundation and community partners. I've got Crystal Page and Tess Koreski here from the communications team, and then we have our partner, Melissa Granville from Capital Impact, who helps us and is core to this project. And we're excited to welcome you all to this informational webinar. Whether you're a nominator, a nominee, or you're just interested in the program, we're excited to have you here, share a little bit more about the program. Before we jump into the content of today's session, we're going to kind of walk through some of the technical pieces. So here's our agenda for this brief webinar. We're going to obviously do our welcome and introduction. We're going to take a deep dive into the nomination process, and then we're going to go into some tips for completing a competitive application. And then we're going to leave some time at the end, concluding with a Q&A to kind of respond to any lingering or looming questions that you have that might not have been answered throughout this process. And so before we jump in, I have a few housekeeping notes. We ask that all attendees will remain muted. I don't think that you have access to your mics. You might or may not, but we ask that you stay muted so that the rest of the group can hear the presenters. And then live captions are available on your Zoom. If you navigate towards the bottom of your Zoom screen and to your right, there's an option for more. And if you click on more, there's an option for closed captions there. Please use the Q&A function on Zoom throughout the session. If there's a question that emerges for you, you can input it in the Q&A section, and we'll respond to those towards the end and likely respond to them during our presentation of the content. And then you don't have access to your chat, I don't believe. So we're going to ask that you use your Q&A function for any technical assistance as well. Right, so we will be present to those. And without further ado, I think I've connected all of them. I'm going to pass it to my esteemed colleague, Crystal Page. Muted.
Typical. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Crystal Page. Thank you, Dr. Novi. We are excited to be here with you today to discuss the new Leadership Awards for 2026. For those of you who haven't engaged with us, we just want to first say welcome, glad to connect with you, but also tell you a bit about the foundation so you have a sense of both the foundation and the opportunity tied to the award. As you may or may not know, Prebys Foundation is the largest private grant maker, largest private foundation funder in San Diego County. It was founded through the generosity of the late Conrad Prebys, who had done a lot of building and work here, but just loved arts and culture, funded medical research, funded youth success, and also really prioritized things like healthcare for the community, the well-being of youth and families. Our mission overall is really to build a more inclusive, equitable, dynamic future for everyone in San Diego. So as I mentioned, that's where our program areas, which are now known as health and well-being, medical research, youth success, and arts and culture align. So if you've received a grant, you may know this, but just wanted to update those of you who are newer to our connection. About these awards, so these started 3 years ago. We were lucky enough to have Melissa Granville, the partner at Capital Impact, with us from the beginning. So she's really helped us put skin on the bones of this project. And so her team really helps streamline things and make sure that we're achieving the goals we've set out for this. To tell you a bit about those goals, I just want folks to understand there are so many wonderful leaders across San Diego County. Every year we have the opportunity to honor 5 of them. But that doesn't mean that the whole pool isn't filled with wonderful, talented people. But we are looking for 5 new inspiring leaders that drive real change. That includes real change, meaningful change tied to our focus areas that I mentioned earlier. They're there on the screen. This award provides the leader with $100,000 in flexible funding. That means the awardee who gets this based on a nominator's application has the flexibility if they have a personal need, say that they've been sick or they just need a sabbatical, they're welcome to use it for that. They're also welcome to direct it straight towards the nonprofit and the work they've been doing to bring that to fruition. There is no judgment on that. In fact, we want to support that leader to do what's in the best interest of both their work and themselves. So sometimes people do split those awards. In addition to the 100,000, we do a dinner celebration that affords some public recognition, and that's ongoing throughout the year because we want to hear those leaders' voices, their vision, and help elevate their work. Key goals of the program include identifying and supporting those leaders, but also hopefully inspiring the community. When we learn about the awardees every year, we find that they're doing something unique and different, and they really are very well connected and striving for that impact. This award is designed to expand the Prebys Foundation's reach and connections, deepen our understanding. We learn from these awardees and from any applications the nominators write, but also then to elevate those voices and perspectives to help further well-being across the region. So we especially want to encourage nominations that help us learn about new leaders, new networks, and new communities. And even those communities we know about, we want to learn about the powerful work happening in this moment. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Melissa with Capital Impact. And Melissa, thank you as always for all of your work.
Thank you, Crystal, and welcome everybody. I'm so delighted to be here today and to get to be with these lovely colleagues here at the foundation and you. I'm genuinely, and I'll speak on behalf of all of us, like we're genuinely excited to learn more about the inspiring leaders you're considering nominating. And we recognize that there's a lot of time and energy and thoughtfulness that goes into these nominations. So just extreme gratitude for you considering this, and also for the future work ahead as you draft the nominations. So thank you. As Novi and Crystal mentioned, the session is all about helping you feel confident and informed and supported as you prepare your nomination. And I'd like to just start with talking about some key dates and deadlines. So pop over here. So nominations are officially open and must be submitted by June 13th, 2025. So there's still plenty of time to put together a competitive nomination. And once we close the portal over the summer, our team will review all nominations for eligibility and alignment with the selection criteria. Then by late September, an independent selection committee made up of community members and foundation staff and board members will meet to determine the finalists. From there, we conduct additional research. So this includes reviewing publicly available information and may also include phone calls with the references provided by the nominator in the nomination form. Importantly, finalists are not notified that they are under consideration, and the list of finalists will not be made public at any point in this process. In mid-November, the selection committee will meet and select 5 award recipients. And then all nominators, those who submitted in the portal, will be notified after that, and awardees will be announced publicly in June 2026. All right. So let's talk about eligibility. So these awards are designed to recognize individual leaders, not necessarily organizations or teams or pairs of co-leaders or movements. To qualify, nominees must live and work in San Diego County. They can come from any sector, so whether nonprofit, public, or private, and from a wide range of roles or backgrounds. What's most important is that the work aligns with at least one of our 4 focus areas: health and well-being, medical research, youth success, or arts and culture. It's also important to know that the most competitive nominees tend to be leaders who have real influence over the solutions that they're driving. So leadership is an action, not a role. So you don't have to be an executive director or a CEO or vice president. You just have to have power, leadership, or authority over whatever the work is that is being described in the nomination. We're also looking for leaders who have a proven track record of impact in their current role and to plan to remain active in their work in the foreseeable future. So not retiring tomorrow, for example. Before we begin, we recommend, or before you begin on your nomination, we recommend reviewing the full eligibility and selection criteria to make sure your nominee is a strong fit. We'll walk through it today, but highly suggest visiting the website after today to make sure that you're all set before starting. All right, let's talk now briefly about what the foundation is looking for in a nominee. So the foundation uses 6 criteria to assess nominees, looking at both their leadership and the impact of their work. So these are purpose, opportunity, belonging, innovation, impact, and scalability. So I'll talk through these briefly now, but we'll really get into them in detail in a bit to give you tips on what you might consider adding in or talking about with each criterion. So purpose, we're really trying to understand what drives them and how do they inspire others. For opportunity, are they removing barriers and expanding access? For belonging, do they create inclusive collaborative spaces? For innovation, we are looking to see, are they solving problems in new, relevant ways? For impact, what change have they created in people's lives? And for scalability, could their work grow or inspire others? Each criterion is addressed through a narrative question in the nomination form. And I'll talk about the criteria in more detail later on when we walk through how to submit a competitive nomination and what to include in your responses. All right, these are our amazing award recipients of past. So for the last 2 cycles of the awards, and mostly we just wanted to share these folks and talk a little bit about how these folks aligned with the selection criteria. So if you're wondering what all of these selection criteria look like in real life, look no further than these awardees. They represent diverse fields and lived experiences, but all share a deep commitment to community and lasting change. For example, some have created innovative health access programs, while others have driven systemic change in education or the arts. Their work is not just visionary, it's grounded in action, inclusive in spirit, and capable of inspiring broader transformation in San Diego and beyond. So we encourage you to check out their stories on the website. They're great examples of how these criteria show up in powerful ways. All right. I'll talk a little bit about the nominations form. First and foremost, it is very straightforward and easy to navigate, but does take some thought in terms of how you want to present the information about your nominee. So just to briefly go through what is on the nominations form, you'll be asked to provide your own contact information and details about the nominee. The heart of the form is 6 short answer questions, each tied to the selection criteria. So each has a 250-word limit, and we encourage you to use the full breadth of those word counts. You'll also be asked to provide 2 references who can speak to the nominee's impact from different perspectives. So you can save your work and return to it in the form. Some folks will work on a Word document and then just copy and paste it into the form. It's really up to you and how you want to manage the process. But ultimately, you can save your work and it will be tied to the email that you use to complete the form, and you can always revisit it. And if you have any questions, of course, contact us. All right. So now I want to give a few tips about how to submit a competitive nomination. So I hope that if you take anything away from this session, that it will be this. Align your answers to the 6 selection criteria. So each question in the form is an opportunity to show how the leader meets one of these criteria. And I'll give a little bit of a guide on how to do that. So let's talk about purpose. So this is all about the leader's why. what motivates them, and how they inspire others. It's all about their vision and leadership, not just about what they've done. So in this section, you might consider sharing their values, lived experiences, or personal journey, what change they're committed to and why it matters, and how they energize others and lead with purpose. So I'll also share that, you may not have visibility into all of the leaders' hopes and dreams and their vision for the world, and that's totally okay. We want you to bring your own authentic perspective into how you're sharing this information. So, feel free to respond in that way and not feel obligated to know all the things about the leader that you're nominating. The second criterion is innovation. So this is highlighting how the leader addresses challenges in creative, community-rooted ways. So it's not just about the problem, it's about their approach to that problem. In this section, it could be helpful to include the specific challenge they're tackling or challenges, how their approach is unique, effective, and/or culturally relevant, and what makes their work responsive to the needs of the community. All right, let's talk about opportunity. So this criterion focuses on how the leader is creating real access to well-being for all San Diegans. It's about equity and impact across identities, communities, and neighborhoods across San Diego County. And you may include in this section clear action-oriented steps that remove barriers. What are some examples of how they have done that, how they have removed barriers for folks in the community to access well-being, how they serve people across race, class, ability, and other identities, and use examples that show expanded access or inclusion, and be as specific as possible. All right, let's talk about belonging. So this speaks on how the leader creates inclusive, respectful spaces where everyone feels seen and valued. It's about culture, relationships, and trust, not just about systems. In this section, you might highlight examples of inclusive decision-making, ways they uplift marginalized voices, and how they foster collaboration and connection across communities. We're looking for bridge building and examples of bridge building in this section. All right. Last two criteria. Okay, so impact. This is all about results. What has actually changed due to the contribution of their leadership? Think outcomes, not just efforts. So in this section, you might include data or stories that show the difference that they have made, measurable or meaningful change in people's lives, and proof that their work is moving the needle in San Diego. I'll emphasize that, quantitative data is just one form of demonstrating impact. Other ways of demonstrating impact might be quotes from folks that have been impacted by the work of this leader. It could be other anecdotes that demonstrate impact. It does not solely have to be quantitative. Thinking about other ways to demonstrate that is totally reasonable and equally as important. The last criterion is scalability. So this looks ahead. Could their work grow, spread, or inspire others? Think about readiness. So both internal and external readiness. In this section, you might include how their work is timely and how it could grow or influence others. Some signs of internal readiness, for example, are a strong team, supportive systems, clear vision, a strong budget, growth over time. Extra evidence of external momentum could look like growing demand, newsworthiness, things that you're seeing in the news often, community interest, or that their work is operating in a key moment in time, that it's conducive for their work to scale or grow. And how recognition or visibility, how receiving this award could help them reach the next level of impact in San Diego and beyond. Great. So I'm going to give some general tips now on just how to submit a competitive nomination, and then we'll talk a little, or we'll kick off some Q&A. So just some general tips. One is to be as specific as possible. So the strongest nominations have strong storytelling and provide evidence to support claims that are made. So saying this work is really impactful is great. Following that up with some evidence to support that it is impactful can be really helpful for the selection committee to assess impact as a criterion, for example. So it's great to provide praise and general praise, but showing concrete examples that show the leader, who the leader is, and the impact that they've had in the community or will have in the community is important. As I mentioned earlier, and Crystal mentioned, we're both looking at the leader themselves. It's a bit of a balance between the leader themselves and the work that they're doing. So making sure that your answers, your responses to the questions, the narrative questions, are balanced between the leader themselves and the work that they're advancing. And I mentioned this already, but using the full word counts, we hope that you'll give us the depth of information so we can properly evaluate the leader that you're nominating. So use those word counts, 250 word counts, as guides for you. I'd encourage you to start early. So as I mentioned earlier, some nominators will draft their responses in a Word document or a Google Doc and then copy paste them into the form. You're more than welcome to do that. I would also encourage you to check out the FAQ section of the Leadership Board's website to just review anything and the eligibility and selection criteria before you get started. And one question that we've gotten in advance is whether you should connect with the nominee or their colleagues in advance to let them know that you're nominating them or to work with them to get information. You are more than welcome to do that, but it is not required. If you feel like it would strengthen their nomination, you're more than welcome to reach out and say like, hey, one area that could be helpful is like impact data. A leader might have more up-to-date information than is present on their website, for example. So you could say, hey, could you share some quantitative measures of how you've made an impact in the community? So that's up to you. And last thing is just reach out to us if you have any questions. We are here to support you, and this is the third year of this program, so we're still learning a lot. So we, through your questions, we are adapting and improving the program and how it meets the community needs. So please feel free to reach out to us throughout the process. So I'm going to stop there and just thank you so much again for being here. And I will kick it over back to Novi, who will help us facilitate the Q&A.
Thanks, Melissa. All right, so we've got some good time on, to dig into some of the Q&A. So a number of you sent in questions before this webinar, so we'll respond to some of those as well as some during the actual webinar, which have been responded to in the Q&A section. So if you would like to see those there, but we'll review them out loud as well. And keep the questions coming if you have more questions. All right, so first, can there be more than one nomination from a single organization? So the answer simply is yes, right? Because nominations are coming from individuals and not organizations. And if your question's around whether or not multiple people from a single organization can be nominated, yes, they can. Are university faculty eligible? Yes. This is about community leadership and all of its shapes and approaches and positionalities. So yes. Do we need to work with the nominee in preparing the application? Melissa just kind of spoke to that. It is not a requirement, but if it best suits your responses and your application, your nomination, by all means. Should you tell the person that you are nominating that you plan on nominating them? you can. I think an awesome surprise if they don't know and they, are just honored by the community. But if you feel like you should let them know, yeah, by all means. Can we nominate more than one person? Yes, you may. If you have the capacity to do so, please do so. The nomination form is a bit, I wouldn't say lengthy, but it is intentional. So if you have the capacity to complete that in an authentic manner, please do so. All right, moving on to webinar questions. Will we be able to have access to the presentation after? Yes, you will. We will be including both this video and the slide deck to our Prebys Leadership Awards website. And we will also be following up with an email reminder of the nomination due date as well, with all of this information for you. Are organizations that are current grantees eligible to make a nomination? Yes, absolutely. So there's no conflict of interest there. And we encourage organizations that we've been partnered with to nominate a leader from their organization. Again, because this is different than an award that goes to an organization, it goes to the leader themselves. So total different program. Will you share the slide deck? Yes, we will. I don't know if we have this one. Who should I email if I have questions in the future? Yes, you can email us at communicationsfdn.org. That's PREBYSFDN.org. Let's see. Okay, they're rolling in now. Let me pace it. Let's see, what are some of the most common? Oh. So what are some of the most common rookie mistakes people make in their application? Melissa, do you want to speak to that?
I do, if I can get unmuted. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a great question. I spoke to this a little bit. I think the key piece is using the full word count. I think sometimes because it can be a lengthy process that folks are too brief and it doesn't give us enough information to assess their alignment with the selection criteria. So elaborate and provide evidence. I think another kind of quote unquote rookie mistake is making a claim and then not sharing some evidence to back up that claim. So again, we're looking for not just whether they are or aren't impactful in the community, but how they're impactful in the community. So if there's any stories that you're aware of or quantitative measures, please provide those. And then the biggest thing is just making sure that you're aligning with the criteria. I think trying to follow the guidance that we provided for each section and avoid redundancies across the 6 criterion. So, using those 6 sections to answer and provide different information than you have provided in previous sections is another recommendation that I have. But yeah, those would be the big ones. Back to you, Nobi.
It's a news anchor. All right, so let's see what we have here. What's ready? Is the health and well-being focus restricted to those who work in healthcare? So no, our philosophy as a foundation, health and well-being entails healthcare and beyond. So even more holistic measures of well-being in that consideration. And I will keep that open-ended intentionally. Can one individual nominate multiple people? Yes, we answered that one. Let's see. Can you speak to what you're looking for in the references, more specifically than what is on the website? Melissa, can you take that one?
Happy to. Yeah, so one of the things that's very helpful since you're providing 2 references here is to think about what the references can provide outside of what the nominator can provide, and then also perhaps what's different between each of the references. So if they become a finalist and we do make phone calls to, and if we choose to make phone calls to the references, it's nice to have two different perspectives about the leader and their work. We'd encourage you to think about people that are familiar, not just with who they are as a person, but also the work that they're doing, so they can speak to kind of both of those things. But you know, I wouldn't overthink this too much. If you have two folks that can speak to the leader in their work, go with your instinct on this one. And yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. There's a question here, Melissa, that I'll ask you to weigh in on. I don't want to mention it. In the past few years, have any of the awardees been nominated by more than one person? So I'll start by saying that I think Melissa mentioned this earlier, but it's not about the quantity of nominations, but more so the quality of a nomination. So people can be nominated multiple times, but that does not imply that they have a strong, nomination. So I'm not sure in terms of historically, I can't remember off the top of my head. Melissa, do you know?
Yeah, just to reiterate, the number of nominations does not increase the likelihood that you will get the award. And certainly we encourage folks to be nominated again if they did not receive the award in prior years. So um, just because you were, or like a leader wasn't selected last year doesn't mean that they won't be this year. As we talked about, external readiness and other factors kind of go into the decision from the selection committee and the foundation staff. Because the external readiness and internal readiness are such a component of it, it could have just been that the timing wasn't right for your leader to receive the award last year or the year before. So encourage folks who maybe have nominated before or have been nominated in the past to consider another one this year.
Cool. Thank you. There's a question here. Time check. Okay, we're good. There's a question here. Will there be a conflict of interest if I'm an employee of an organization and nominating our leadership? That is not a conflict of interest. I mean, you're very present to the leader's leadership. So I think that's a great positionality to have. So no conflict of interest.
I think,
Look around.
Novi, can I expand on this one?
Yep. Mhm.
One of the questions that we get a lot is who should nominate. The most important piece or consideration around who should nominate is your awareness of the leader as a leader and the work that they're advancing. It does not matter necessarily whether you're a volunteer or a community member or on their board or an elected official. That who you are does not weigh into the decision making about whether the leader should advance or not. So it's purely about whether you are familiar with their work, or how familiar you are with their work.
Is there each of the focus areas? I think this is one question. Is there a full description of each of the focus areas? Is that regarding, I want to say this is regarding our funding pillars. Yeah. So yes, on our website, if you go to uh, prebysfdn.org, we have more details around our funding pillars, kind of what we've done historically around those pillars. You can get a idea of what we do, what kind of work we do in those spaces. Yes. Okay. Is there any? There's a lot in here. Okay. Mistakes. Got that one. Speak to. Um, Melissa, I think this one might be good for you. Is each nomination reviewed on its own, or if several nominations are submitted for one nominee from a different nominating party or nominator, um, are they reviewed together?
Great question. All nominations will be reviewed and for eligibility and competitiveness. So if multiple nominations are submitted, all of them will be reviewed.
Okay. I'm looking at my team to make sure I'm not missing anything. That might be it.
I think one question is about just how, like, what subcategories might exist within each of the 4 focus areas. Do we want to speak to that a little bit more, or is that fully fleshed out on the website?
I'll jump in. So yes, on the link that Tess shared, and we'll make sure to include the Making a Difference link, you'll see, as Novi mentioned, that there are a broad set of categories, but we want folks to understand there's flexibility there, right? So for example, in January, we launched the Healing Through Arts and Nature. So that really ties, arts and nature to overall well-being. So I saw that there were questions about folks like leaders in the space of homelessness. Depending on the work and how the case is made in the application, I think that really helps us understand, does this align? So that's about as specific as I want to get, because we don't want to limit what you understand, but just know that our categories are flexible on purpose to open and welcome your viewpoint and your perspective.
I think that might be it.
Okay. And I guess as we wind down here. So first of all, we just want to thank you all, whether you're nominators or potential nominees or both, for your time, for giving 40 minutes to this. We encourage you to take the time, again, reach out at communications@prebysfdn.org. If you need anything, that will be in the email. We also would ask, because we really do like to get to connect with the community and build relationships. If you know of someone who is a community connector, who knows folks and their work in the community and their contribution, whether you want to write something with them for an application, even though they're individual applications, or if you want to encourage someone else to do a nomination, we do ask that you please share this. It definitely, I think, gives people a lot of hope, and we know we only get to pick 5 folks, but you never know what comes out of those relationships. Additionally, reach out, like I said, with any questions, and we just again want to thank you for your time. From here, Melissa has talked to us. Once that window closes, Melissa's team will start that review for us, and then it'll go to our selection committee. So we just look forward to staying connected with you and looking forward to those nominations. Melissa, anything else you want to add? If not,
Yeah, just a deep gratitude for all of the work that you're doing in the community, and for elevating leaders. It's my favorite time of year, getting to, I feel, restored hope and renewed hope when I get to read these applications or nominations. So just lots and lots of gratitude. Thank you.
excellent. With that, well, thank you everyone for your time. We will send out those materials, and please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you again for your time. Take care.